So I thought about the Cowboys today, and my question in my notes are the Cowboys serious? Like, are they serious? And so I came up with 4 ways to fix the Cowboys. And then once we get done with the Cowboys, I came up with 2 definitive reasons you have to fire Sirianni in Philly. It looks like he's going to be retained. We do know that Jerry Jones, who's at 81, and 81, he's 81 years old. Sports repeatedly, it's kind of, Amal and Dustin, it's a mirror for your life, right? Like, for example, when a player you grew up watching, all of a sudden their kid pops up, you're like, I love their dad, Delino DeShields. Anyone? When Delino DeShields was an Expo, second base, just an absolute slick glove. He could run. I loved Delino. When his son came up, I said, well, I'm dead because life is just passing me by. But there's benchmarks. Like, you remember where you were during a Super Bowl, who you were with, like what was going on in your life. Like, sports is constantly a reflection, a mirror. For Jerry Jones, like, there's not too much time left. And I'm not saying that. He keeps on saying it. Like, the meetings he's having with the media and his team, he's like, look, fellas, I'm 81. We're coming to the end. I need another championship. And so I think a guy that actually, it's a bit of a fallacy. Jones, and you were there covering Dallas Sports Mall, Jones has been loyal in the past. And he last night announced, and of course the Cowboys announced they were going to continue to stay loyal to Mike McCarthy. I guess it was a stunning announcement. It was not received well by social media. I can say that, and Cowboys fans. Despite the 48-32 beatdown by the Green Bay Packers, a 5th year from Mike McCarthy. Remember, maybe they're hoping for synergy because I guess some alignment. The 5th year in Green Bay, he beat the Steelers to win a Super Bowl. So maybe, however, we're grasping. You know, he has won 12 games his last 3 years, 36-15, 2 division titles. However, the issue is last 3 years, 1 playoff win, and that playoff win them all was against the 8-9 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But like I said, Jones isn't going to be impetuous at 81. He feels like systemically they have what it takes to win a Super Bowl, and he's just going with McCarthy. However, I'm not so sure it's a serious decision.
I know you feel like they should move on from him. It appears like social media. And wait a minute. I should correct myself. I'm assuming you think they should move on from him. Is that correct?
Yes. I'm going to say yes.
I do not. I know I'm in the extreme minority here. You mentioned it, the 36-15 record over the last 3 years, 2 of those losses coming against the 49ers. There's no way to sugarcoat what happened on Sunday. They played a horrific football game. It was over by halftime. They were completely decimated on their home field where they were dominant this year. But to me, there's a couple of factors when I look at it. When I look around the coaching landscape, who is it that you're going to bring in? It's probably going to be a coordinator, somebody offensive or potentially defensive that you would bring in to replace Mike McCarthy. That's a roll of the dice. Jim Harbaugh, Bill Belichick. Are they going to be able to catapult you from a position where Mike McCarthy's been winning back-to-back, not back-to-back, 2 out of 3 division titles, but really put yourself in a prime position, number 2 seed? Talent-wise, I think we're all in agreement that the 49ers are the best in terms of their 22 compared to anybody else in the NFL, and I don't think there's a lot of teams that are that close. So for me, I don't think it's a slam dunk in terms of moving on from McCarthy. Guys, where I see the problem that still exists, and it's not going to change next year, is number 4, Dakota Prescott is your quarterback. Until you move on from him, the Dallas Cowboys are not going to get past the conference championship game in my estimation. That's even assuming you can get there.
Now, the reason when you asked me directly, I paused, is because I have 4 ways to fix the Cowboys. Now, when I lay them out to you fellas, you can tell me whether or not McCarthy fits into that box. If I were just to make a snap decision, Dustin Swedelson, I would move on from McCarthy. Sometimes in life, there are people that are just good enough. Now, he has won a championship, to be fair. There are people that are just good enough, maybe not that edge to get over the hump, and he's proven 12 straight wins in 3 seasons. That's pretty damn good. However, he's flamed out in the postseason.
Yeah, and look, the way I come down is I never thought he should have been hired to begin with. So of course I think he should be fired. I think it was ridiculous hire to begin with, even though he's won the games he's won. Just because someone's been a head coach somewhere else doesn't mean the quote unquote Dallas Cowboys, America's team, need to go out and get someone with cachet and this big resume. How about get someone with new ideas, someone who's innovative, someone's gonna be ahead of things. Let's hear from Mike McCarthy, who spoke with the media today, because he was flat out asked by Jane Slater from NFL Network, why should Cowboy fans buy into him being the head coach of this team?
I believe that the direction, the leadership, everything is in place. And I'm not very comfortable talking about myself, but I came here to win a championship. I didn't come here to get another contract or anything other than that. I came to Dallas to win the world championship, and that's why I'm standing here and buy into us.
I just realized my mom's husband is Mike McCarthy. I have a great, I guess he's a father-in-law. When you're my age, he's just
he's a stepfather.
Excuse me, stepfather. But he's just Mike. Mike is the best, like literally worked his whole life at Ford on the line. But like that, when I just saw him talking, I'm like, that's Mike. That's my stepfather. That's not the coach of a Super Bowl winning team. Like that's Mike. So is there any other clips? Because I want to lay out the 4 tenets for the Cowboys.
That was all I grabbed today because it was a whole lot of that.
I think it's fair. Now, you brought up, Amal, of course, Dak Prescott. But before we get to how I would fix the Cowboys, and let's see if McCarthy fits in. If Jerry Jones were to move on from McCarthy, don't you guys think he could have just, a guy you guys love, couldn't he have just gone to Vrabel and said, you can have the Cowboys? And Vrabel would have been like, absolutely. Is that a decision? Is that an upgrade? Because I do think it still carries the cachet of the Cowboys.
I do not think it's an upgrade, but here's the thing where I push back on McCarthy. I think McCarthy's probably better than we've given him credit for. You mentioned the Super Bowl win. This was the conclusion of his 20th season in the National Football League. Guys, he's won double digits in games 14 of those 20 years. That's an impressive statistic when you think about it. Patrick, I'm looking forward to hearing what you've got to say on this. But to me, the one thing is if you make a change, sometimes the change, while on the surface may seem good or effective, doesn't necessarily mean you improve. Does this team have a 13-4 regular season? Are they going to be better than the Niners, whose core is all back next year?
Hey, I love the fact that you're fighting for them because we're not just going to crush them. Speaking of Dallas Cowboys fans, John Goulet sent me a quote that I can read when we come back. Let's just say he's not a fan. But we're talking about the big news last night. Mike McCarthy, it was announced he's going to come back for year 5. And I like the fact that Amal is defending the decision and defending McCarthy because, you know what? Most people are killing it. And Cowboys fans are asking, is the team serious? And we were kind of going through some of the reaction. Here's a reaction. And we joke with our program director, John Goulet, that he's a Cowboys fan that's from Connecticut, but he is a ride or die Cowboys fans. As a matter of fact, I'm guessing Saturday afternoon was not fun for his significant other and daughter. However, I asked him, can I get a quote to read about McCarthy being retained? And it's short and sweet. Every bar in Dallas is ecstatic because they'll have a massive spike in liquor sales in January when the Cowboys are losing in the wild card round again. So probably not overly excited based on that response. So he says, yeah, I mean, it's good. You're going to win some football games, 12 games, 3 years straight. But then come the wild card, you're going to get bounced if you have McCarthy. So that's the question. I just wrote down the 4 things that I think the Cowboys need to fix. And you guys pick it apart. Feel free. Prescott entering his final year, they have to decide. Remember, he signed a 4-year, $160 million contract. It's close to a $60 million cap hit, but this is the final year. So is Dakota, as you call him, the answer moving forward? Is he the quarterback of the future? Now, he had a great regular season. He led the NFL in touchdown passes. He cut way back on the interceptions. But in a big game, I think you guys would both agree, he looked shook. Like, when they showed Love, I said it looked like he was meditative. When they showed Dak, it looked like he was on something. Like, not saying he was on, but he looked shook. And also, Amal, some of those throws, you could tell he was short-arming it. And when a quarterback's short-arming a throw, it's that he's nervous. And then I also wrote down the CD component because there was obviously something, whether it's interpersonal, but there was a rub there with CD. Now, he, just like everybody that is brought into an organization, has to get the quarterback better. Do we believe Dak is the future? And if he is McCarthy the guy to get him better?
It's a great question. I think McCarthy is the guy to get him to where they've gotten to. I don't think he can get over the hump. That's the concern I have. And I don't think it's on the coach, guys, and it's okay if you guys disagree with me, and most people do. But, Patrick, I thought you brought up a great point in terms of short-arming. In football, you can tell when a quarterback's a little bit nervous. I thought the Cowboys looked concerned after it was 14-0 early on in that football game. We're just barely through a quarter, and they looked nervous. In basketball, anytime somebody short-arms it, you can see there's a lack of confidence. I think for Dak Prescott, he's a tremendous player as a front runner when the team is playing well against weaker opponents. When you look at his numbers against bigger and better teams, he doesn't necessarily perform at an elite level. The game against the Eagles at home, they played extremely well in that game. But overall, to me, I don't think with Prescott at quarterback and the combination of McCarthy, they can get through the NFC with San Francisco there. And guys, here's the other problem, though, when you look big picture in the NFC. There's only one team, with all due respect to the Lions and the Eagles, there's only one team standing in the way, and that's the team in Santa Clara. And if they've got a major injury, whether it's with Brock Purdy next year, Deebo Samuel, anybody else you want to pick out on that roster, you have an opportunity. The NFC, as we know, is not that great. I think we could take 4 teams probably from the AFC that are better than the NFC minus San Francisco.
It's low-hanging fruit to bring up, number one, the quarterback, Dustin and Amal, but here's why I bring it up. And Jerry loves Dak. Jerry Jones loves Dak Prescott. So if Dak is going to be the future, which I'm assuming he is, 30, 31 years old, you got to bring in a Harbaugh. You got to bring in you got to bring in a Gruden, somebody that's been known to work with quarterbacks and then coach them up. We don't know if McCarthy's that guy. Your point on Dak, Dustin.
The problem with Dak Prescott is when things are going great and everything's perfect around him, he's great. The problem is when things aren't perfect, he fails over and over again, and it happens too often in big spots. People get to him, and I think a sign of a great athlete in any sport is when things are going wrong, can you just find a way? Can you just do enough? Can you adjust and somehow come away with a win? And it just feels like he's either winning by a lot or getting crushed by a lot.
Can I cut you? Can I cut you? Because you led me into my second point perfectly. Yep. You're asking, is Mike McCarthy a front runner? Well, if he's going to continue coaching the Cowboys, he has to answer for the home-road splits. Okay? Let's talk about the 4 road wins this year against the worst 7 teams in the league. He had won 16 straight at home until losing to Green Bay on Saturday. That is, Dustin, you just laid it out and didn't even know you were laying it out. Like, this is something, sometimes that's just an innate thing. He was great in Green Bay as well. Sometimes somebody feels comfortable with a lead and piling on, but when the chips are down, not to be cheesy and cliche, he hasn't shown that he's able to bring this team and take them to another level. So my question would be, do we believe he can make this right, and that is the home road splits?
That's a fair question. I think that's a really good question. I don't know. And I know based on an I don't know answer, then you look to move on. But, to me, when I look through the schedule, they dominated the Eagles at home, and they beat the Lions on, guys, let's be real here. I don't know how Brad Allen screwed that up. Taylor Decker's never walking over to the referee or the umpire to sit there and have a conversation. That was a mess up on the referee. So, in reality, Patrick, to answer your question, I'd have to say no. And so if you make that as an argument for why you'd move on, I think that's a very fair and absolutely right one.
I'm going to protect him on my next point, but did you want to say anything about the front running with the splits there, Dustin, home and away?
No, I just think him and Dak are very similar, like in that regard, where when things are right, they look awesome and the offense looks awesome and things are rolling downhill. But the second they get punched, they never have a counter, and that goes for both McCarthy and Prescott.
Real quick, Patrick, and you know this, Dustin, quick guess, out of 12 wins, how many teams that were over 500 they beat?
Out of their 12 wins? 5.
3.
Next one, boys. Good one. Next one. This is not McCarthy's fault. The Cowboys let him down. The 2023 draft was a disaster. Mazi Smith, the defensive tackle out of Michigan, disaster. Luke Schoonmaker, the tight end in the second round, disaster. You can't put that on McCarthy. McCarthy can turn around and say, 2 more players, that's the difference for me right here. I won 12 games, and you just had a disastrous draft. Felt like 2017 with the Cowboys. The Cowboys have to get better drafting.
Yeah, and you know what? That was like a hallmark for Jerry and Stephen Jones for a while. They really didn't, they would get good value every year in the draft, but to not have any of those guys be impact guys on a team ready to win, that is a massive failure.
I completely agree with you. When you look at this team, there's not, the most heralded pick was Deuce Vaughn because his dad's on the coaching staff.
I don't even know what he did this year.
Put out on social media.
Listen,
exactly.
Mazi Smith, I mean, he could have been playing for Michigan this year. I wouldn't have known the difference.
Well, Michigan
he didn't
didn't
play for the
miss him.
Cowboys. Exactly.
First round is a disaster.
Yeah, Schoonmaker, listen, they should have taken Colston Loveland, the kid who's at tight end at Michigan right now, and said, we'll take him in 2 years. But I'm with you, Patrick. They didn't do him any favors. And to Patrick's point, think about this. Who's the young kid up in Seattle? Witherspoon, the cornerback?
Yeah, he's amazing.
He's amazing, right? He's a number 5 pick, though. But one other thing, they didn't have Trevon Diggs. They didn't have Trevon Diggs this year, right?
Fair.
That's a big low. That's a big blow. I still think if they can capitalize on a decent draft pick, you get somebody that has an impact for you defensively this year. They did not do him any favors. That's why, to me, guys, I don't think you move on from McCarthy. Yes, they didn't play well, and you could say they weren't prepared. That's on him. But, Patrick, you said it best when you said, I think it summarized the whole thing. Prescott looked shook, scared, and lacked confidence by the time the middle of the second quarter of that game was going on.
And the last one, boys, I wrote down the run game. It was middle of the pack, 113 rush yards a game, 4.1 average. And I'm going to say something maybe Cowboys fans will be upset about. Tony Pollard lacked any explosiveness that he had the year before. They got to get him somebody better. That may not be on McCarthy.
I want to tell you something. Matt Brown and I had this disagreement one time. I said Ezekiel Elliott is needed to make Tony Pollard better. Ezekiel Elliott softens the belly of the beast and then allows you to utilize Pollard on the perimeter. You notice this year he couldn't do it. When they realized he's getting the ball, we're not worried about him running between the tackles. We'll just play the perimeter, and they slowed him down. They realized Tony Pollard is a change of pace back when he's got somebody that's a bell cow in front of him. He is a number 2 running back. Go get him a number 1.
Dak needs a run game. Dak is best off the play action. You gotta help him, and you gotta help McCarthy more.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.